is bad. But I do think that there's more of a open mind to what good music is.
Yeah.
Different genres good music is so subjective. And I just don't think that people are getting to that point yet. In our class, we did talk about, certain scientific writing, let's say, being not actually as good as they think they are, or not good for the sake of what they're trying to do.
Right.
Not knowing their audience enough to know that that's maybe a bad idea to use these, bigger words, let's say, for lack of a better word, bigger words to express something. And in that effort, they lose their audience and lose maybe someone who they could have taught something for the sake of sounding academic. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, no, that's something we talk about a lot in like political science, right?
Yeah.
For example.
Tell me what's up.
Where especially starting in graduate school, there is a certain way that you're supposed to write for your academic audience within political science departments, and at the end of the day, 9 times out of 10, the stuff that you're talking about isn't complicated enough to warrant the exclusion of an audience based on the terminology you're using.
Terminology was the word I was looking for.
Yeah, I mean,
but yes.
Sometimes it's necessary to be, to use terms of art like within your specific field, but, with the exception of probably computer science, which I wouldn't understand much of, or some of the harder sciences. I think it's super valuable to be more inclusive to general audiences, like interdisciplinary.
Yeah.
But I mean, art has that same problem too. I mean, the communities that we're talking about are.
You're right. That's
membership is coveted, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's getting into a gallery, signing to a record label, and at the end of the day, I think it boils down to you're gonna have to do stuff that you don't want to do sometimes.
Right. So let's get to I like that a lot. Let's get to the answer of this, right?
Yeah.
Like all these problems and complaints, but let's get to the answer. So you think, at the end of the day, you just might have to do things you don't want to do.
Right. I mean, you figure out how to support yourself to the extent that you can do what you want to do. Obviously, that looking forward in a career, or not even a career, in your life, right? You have to figure out what's important to you. Is the creation of art more important than having a family to you, having a serious partner, right? I mean, those are things that like many artists or people working other jobs too have had to make up their minds about, and those things can either benefit you, or you can they can take away from your ability to do what you want to do, and those are important calculations. But I think it's all about acknowledging that like sometimes the process sucks. Sometimes getting to where you want to be is difficult, and
sometimes consistency and satisfying the norms of that form or whatever. For you, maybe certain forms of painting. For me, it's definitely certain forms of writing. I think can be really exhausting and suck.
And there'll be like purists, right, who are like, oh well, that's selling out to something that you don't believe in, or you don't share a worldview with. And the answer is, I mean, once again, most of the time, if you want to be able to create the things that you want to create, right, that are truly inspiring to you, you have to do some work ahead of time to set yourself up to be in that position. And that means, embracing what is already established in order to do something new, which is cool, because there's lots to learn from something that you might dismiss just because it's been there already.
That's what I always think is, one, I try to find the good in what's been done. In a lot of ways, I can find big forms of artistic expression while also being a good writer and satisfying what maybe a magazine or publication would appreciate, would use.
Yeah, and it's fun to see. I mean, in visual arts, it's something that I'll do a lot of the time is I'll take like a famous painting, like for example, like Gabriel's got Gustav Klimt is his home screen on his computer that we're looking at right now. Yeah. And I recently, I took a pretty famous Klimt painting and I kind of did my own version of it. And it's, it's not necessarily derivative. I think you're just using inspiration from other really talented individuals to see what you can do with it. And it also helps you define what what is you versus somebody else, because everyone has their own personal flair. That's what makes art interesting and different from something that could be mass produced.
Yeah, same. The case is the same with writing,
Right.
with music, with
Right.
all
We
those things.
use certain storylines, plot hooks, and rarely are you going to reinvent the idea of a story. You know,
Right.
like what makes a good story is it's kind of a scientific,
they're really
concoction.
Yeah, you
know,
can
and
plot it out. At that
Same thing
point.
for paintings, right? There are certain things that are pleasing to people or uncomfortable, and those are what those are the equations that are used to get to something worthwhile.
Right.
So it's cool to learn from others and also participate in part of your discipline that you may not have otherwise explored.
So then here's to end it all, right? Here's 3 takeaways that I guess I've pulled from this, and I hope I can at least share with the few listening to this little podcast. The first being, I think embracing the mud, the trudge of it all, embracing the difficulty of, maybe adhering to the norms in a way that feels still honest and admirable is a great thing. I think if I go to, my 9 to 5 and I just see it as a 9 to 5 rather than a way to explore a new writer's kind of style and pick up something that I could put into my own writing or something, I think that's a pity. So I should go for it and really try to enjoy what I have and enjoy the the mud, the difficulty of trying to get into a gallery, let's say, as well. Just trying and maybe having to do what is necessary to get where you want to be. It's the first thing, I think. Second thing is the practicality of it. You're saying is like you mentioned something about how there is a certain way you can learn from those people, or learn from what's been done before you, right? And I think at least for the sake of you doing your own rendition of a Klimt painting or something, I think just little moments here and there where you kind of pay respect to what's been done before and maybe follow the rules every now and then, I think is going to feel all right. And that should be okay. And also knowing that you're not going to reinvent something, that sometimes you just do have to follow what's going on and be okay with that. And then the third, and I don't know if I've shared this yet, but I do really mean to, is that it doesn't have to be one or the other. I've talked to my brothers about this before, and I think you and I have talked about this before as well, but him and I have plans to live in LA, him being Matthew, and my brothers. But doesn't mean that I can't do both. I think in the daytimes, let's say, I want to make money and make sure I can pay rent and feed myself. And although that might be a bit annoying or scary to have to choose between one or the other, it doesn't have to be only that. I think that I could find that really annoying, but I could also see myself going home at night after my 9 to 5 and inviting Matthew over for a glass of wine, and he can paint and I could play my music, or I could write my poems, and I can build with him something that satisfies me, that can get me up the next morning and be okay. Does that make any sense?
Yeah. I mean, the most interesting creators out there, I think, all have stories and life experiences that go beyond the actual medium that they work with. Whether it's, I just think back to to a Hemingway figure, right? Who I believe served in World War I, right?
Yeah.
I'm not sure actually. I take that back. But there are plenty people who, the best inspiration for making art is living a real life that is not, that doesn't exist solely in the heaven of your artistic ideals and
right.
So yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think all that stuff is wonderful.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Also, just to close it out, Hemingway did serve in the First World War in the First World War, I mean. He was a volunteer ambulance driver with the American Red Cross.
Not that Hemingway is a great role model for anyone.
right.
But we all read Hemingway still. So.
And we all have to do what we have to do.
Yeah. Yep.
All right?
You gotta do what you gotta do.
All right. Thanks so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed. Maybe next time on this same podcast, I'll have an artist or a differing perspective to maybe highlight the other side of the same story. Thank you for tuning in.
Thank you, Gabriel.
Take care.